All right, well, welcome everyone. My name is Dan Garodnick, and I'm a city councilman from the east side of Manhattan, and I am pleased to be standing here today with the Attorney General of New York State, General Schneiderman, and our hosts today from the Wildlife Conservation Society, John Calvelli. We also are here with Sandra Miola of New York, New Jersey Baykeeper, Mauricio Gonzalez and a number of students from the New York Harbor School, Todd Winston of New York City Audubon, Dave Conover and Manna Joe Green of Clearwater, Roland Lewis of the New York Waterfront Alliance, and Jeremy Cherson from Riverkeeper. We're going to hear from the Attorney General in a moment and from several of the folks that I mentioned, but I am very pleased that we are here today and to be here at the Central Park Zoo, which is home to many species of marine life, to send a message that this city is ready to take on the enormous environmental harm of microbeads. Microbeads. You might ask, what the heck are microbeads? Most New Yorkers have no idea what these things are, and yet they may be using them every day. We've likely all used products containing microbeads. They are found in facial creams, foaming scrubs, shampoos, and toothpastes. They're found in over 100 cosmetic products, such as Neutrogena's Deep Clean Invigorating Foaming Scrub, the Balancing Daily Exfoliator, a men's energy face scrub, and even this 3D white toothpaste. They're designed to scrub your face with a little more abrasiveness and to make your teeth a little whiter. The problem is these microbeads are made from plastic. And much more importantly, when New Yorkers use these products to wash their face or brush their teeth, the microbeads go down the drain and right into our waterways. The reason? Well, they are too small to be filtered out once they hit our water treatment plants, so they end up getting dumped into our rivers, our lakes, and our oceans. The Attorney General, who you're going to hear from in a moment, has estimated that up to 19 tons of these microbeads get flushed into New York State's waterways every year. And once the microbeads end up in the Hudson River, the East River, or Jamaica Bay, they act like sponges for pesticides and other chemicals, adding to their toxicity. And when fish and other marine animals mistake them for food, these polluted microbeads pass into the food chain, and yes, that ultimately includes humans. Those plastics in our face wash can easily end up inside of our bodies, along with the toxins that they have absorbed along the way. Now, New York City prides itself on being one of the greenest cities in the country. And to keep that status, we need to stop allowing microbeads from destroying our waterways. We must go after this pollutant, and the best way to do so is simply by addressing the consumer products that contain them. This afternoon, I will be introducing legislation at the City Council that will prohibit the sale of any personal care product in New York City that contains microbeads. Companies that continue to sell these products will face fines and possible additional legal action. But it doesn't need to come to that. Armed with the knowledge of the harm that they are causing, it's time for the industry to adjust. Now, some companies have already agreed to voluntarily pull products with microbeads from their shelves. There are other more natural ways to exfoliate that don't involve plastic, after all. We used them for many years before microbeads ever came on the scene. The environmental risks here now far outweigh any benefit to having them in our beauty products. It's not even a close call. So I want to thank the Attorney General for his extraordinary efforts to ban the sale of microbeads in the state legislature and to do this on a statewide basis for all of New York State. He made great progress in Albany, but there were some challenges in the Senate. The bills still exist, and he is working to get this done, and we appreciate that. And we hope that our efforts here in New York City will help to spur action and to help him in the halls of Albany. New York City is going to send a clear message here that we respect our waters, we respect our residents, and we will not tolerate the destruction of our environment, even from the tiniest of sources. So I hope that my colleagues in the council will join me in support of this bill, and I hope that our fellow elected officials across the state take up this issue in their hometowns. And with that, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our first speaker, somebody who's been a leader on this issue statewide, our great Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Councilmember Garodnick, for your leadership on this. New York State has, and I have introduced and will introduce again, the most comprehensive ban on microbeads in the country that has been proposed thus far. The bill that is being introduced in the New York City Council today does great good in and of itself by preventing products with microbeads in them from being sold in the city of New York. It's a huge market. But it also adds tremendous momentum to our effort to get a statewide ban enacted. It takes away a lot of the incentive for companies to fight back because a big part of the New York State market will be beyond them. I'm particularly proud to be here today with my friends at the Wildlife Conservation Society and joined by so many great environmentalists. This became a top priority in my Environmental Protection Bureau about 2 years ago when we realized how much harm these small substances were doing and also how easy it really is to solve this problem. We deal with environmental problems that are very, very challenging but sometimes seem intractable. This is one we can get done. We are facing a very big problem from these very tiny products. And the head of my Environmental Protection Bureau drew this to my attention when he said to me, I have one word for you, plastics. Because microbeads, in fact, are plastic. And people don't realize you are putting plastic in your system. This is an anti-blackhead cleanser. This product contains this many microbeads. The small tube contains this many microbeads. They are smaller than a grain of sand. As the council member noted, they pass through our water filtration systems without being caught. And these single tubes of face scrub, such as the one I showed you, can contain as many as 350,000 microbeads. The companies that make these products say they're important for exfoliation because they provide us with extra abrasiveness. One thing we do not need in New York is extra abrasiveness. There are alternative products that would serve just as well. And the thing about microbeads that makes them so dangerous is that they serve as little toxic sponges. When they get in the waterways, they absorb toxins. Fish eat them. And a report by my office last year showed the degree to which they were passing through our filtration systems, including filtration systems here in New York, Newtown Creek plant right across the East River in Greenpoint. And the fish eat them. The fish are then eaten by other animals. They end up in our food chain. They end up on our dinner plates. And once microbeads get in the water, ladies and gentlemen, there is no effective way to clear them up. The only way to deal with this problem is to ban their use, their unnecessary use, in commercial products. Americans send more than 300 tons of microbeads into our waters every year. Some of the highest concentrations are in New York's waterways, in the Great Lakes, in the Hudson River, in our harbors. And New York is a big contributor to this problem. In our state, 19 tons of microbeads are washed down the drain every year, which is why we introduced and have been gaining a lot of support for the most comprehensive ban on microbeads for a state government that's ever been enacted. It passed the Assembly overwhelmingly this past session. I'm confident that with the support of the great environmentalists here and with Assemblymember Garodnick's legislation and other municipalities and local governments passing similar legislation, that this coming session we can ban the bead. So our strategy is a multifaceted approach. We are encouraging local governments to pass bans. New York City, far and away the most important, but the Erie County legislature and Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz passed a ban this summer. Officials in Chautauqua County passed their own ban last week, and there are now 8 other counties around the state that have bills like this under consideration. But New York City is the mother lode. This is a huge step forward, and I think virtually guarantees that we'll be able to pass a statewide ban. And New Yorkers are in the lead on this. The lead at the federal level of trying to pass a ban on microbeads is our own Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. So whether it's at city level, the state level, or the federal level, we are taking this problem on and showing really the most aggressive leadership of any state. As the council member noted, there are some companies that have taken the products off the market that are just using something else, demonstrating that there are alternatives. Colgate, Johnson & Johnson responded to the public pressure and chose to do the right thing. Companies like L'Oreal, Crest, Target, and Avon have made commitments to end the use of microbeads, but it's really something that we can't rely on the companies voluntarily to do. The bill that is being introduced today in New York, the bill that with the support of the people here we will pass in Albany this session, is going to end this problem once and for all, and I am confident that it is going to serve as a national model. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get together to ban the bead, and I cannot thank enough the supporters here. We have really gone in a period of very short time, 2 years, when this was not on anyone's radar screen, to having a major statewide movement that I'm confident will result in us eventually banning these tiny, toxic bits of plastic from our system. And Assemblymember Garodnick, thank you for your leadership, and thank you all for your support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Attorney General. I want to note we've been joined by my colleague, Councilmember Cabrera from the Bronx. We're very pleased to have him here, and also Eric Goldstein of the National Resource Defense Council. You're going to be hearing from both of them in just a couple of moments. But now I'd like to turn the microphone to our host from here at the Central Park Zoo and the Wildlife Conservation Society, John Covelli.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I wanted to thank the Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman, and Councilman Dan Garodnick. We have worked tirelessly on many issues, and I'm glad to see that we're now working together on this important environmental issue. And more importantly for us, we're honored to host it here at the Wildlife Conservation Society and at the Central Park Zoo. As many of you may know, WCS works around the globe. We work in over 60 countries to save wildlife and wild places. And one of the things that we've literally committed to, obviously, is also to help save and protect the waterways and the wildlife here in the New York metropolitan area. So that's why one of the projects that we're working on is the New York Aquarium, where we're actually building a new exhibit that's going to be talking about what we call the New York seascape, the area around New York, the waterways of New York. And as many of you may know, working with the Attorney General's office, and Congressman Serrano, we had been very engaged in helping to clean up the Bronx River. And one of those little factoids of New York City, if you look at our flag, there's actually 2 beaver on that flag. The beaver used to be ubiquitous here in New York. It was gone because we had hunted it to extirpation, to elimination here in the New York City area. We brought the beaver back, so Jose is living back in the Bronx. I haven't seen him lately, but I hear he's doing well. And one of the reasons he's doing well is because we're helping to clean up our waterways. And that's part of a campaign that we've launched here called Blue New York. Like the millions of tourists who come to our great city to enjoy its spectacular cultural offerings, too often we get used to looking up and forget to look out. The New York seascape is an ecological treasure trove, providing critical migration routes for globally threatened species, including sea turtles, whales, and sharks. Who would ever thought that in our lifetime we would see whales breaching off the coast of the Far Rockaway? I mean, that's a statement about how cleaner the waters are around here. And our seascape is an important nursery for so many of those marine mammals. Now, through our work, through our research, our policy initiatives, our public outreach, WCS is working to encourage smart coastal planning and to build ecological resilience. The effort to eliminate plastic microbeads fits right in with this vision. As we know, these tiny plastic particles added to cosmetic products to aid exfoliation are finding their way into our lakes, rivers, streams, and of course the ocean. It's indeed ironic that an invention of modern society to help clean ourselves is having such a decidedly unclean impact on our waters. A report released this month estimates that 8 trillion microbeads per day are emitted into United States waterways alone. These toxic particles are ingested by fish, amphibians, and other small animals that themselves become part of the food chain. This should be an easy problem to resolve nationwide. There are already natural alternatives, as the Attorney General and Councilman Garodnick have referenced. Fortunately, we have leaders like that and Councilman Cabrera who are taking the lead. And we often know that when New York leads, others follow. A microbead bean in New York City and state can help raise national awareness of this crisis. And Congress also needs to act, and as the Attorney General has referenced, this is actually something that New York is leading on, but it's a word that we don't often say. It's a bipartisan effort. We literally have representatives, Republican representatives from Michigan, Senator Portman and Congressman Upton. This is not a Democratic or Republican issue. This is a human issue. So New Yorkers increasingly recognize the ecological, recreational, and economic benefits of keeping their local waterways clean and healthy. Banning microbeads is a critical step in that effort. I look forward to working with all of our colleagues here in the environmental and conservation community to make this happen. Let's ban the bead together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you again for having us here this morning with this wonderful backdrop of the sea lions right behind us. We're now going to hear from Eric Goldstein of the National Resource Defense Council. Eric?
Thank you.
How are you? Good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Thank you, Assemblyman Garodnick. Most New Yorkers would be surprised to know that the products they're using, many of the products they're using to wash their face, scrub their bodies, and sometimes even brush their teeth, contain tiny beads of plastic. It's quite amazing. As you've heard, when those cleansers are washed down the drain, they evade the water pollution control plant equipment and go into our local waterways. There, they are often mistaken for fish eggs or food, and they find toxic particles, often like PCBs, which attach to them, and they find their way up the food chain. This is a 100% completely unnecessary source of pollution. As you've also heard, there are many natural available substitutes that perform the same function as these plastic beads. Apricot seeds, bamboo, walnut shells, pineapple extract. There are many, many kinds of natural products that are being used today to perform the same function. And so we're especially thankful for the leadership that the Attorney General has displayed in Albany to try to ban these constituents in our everyday home care products. And we're enormously grateful to Councilmember Garodnick for picking up the baton and leading us. We hope here in New York City and the City Council will be able to get this legislation through quickly and show the way for the rest of the state and the rest of the country. And we thank you all for coming and joining in the campaign. And by the way, we have some samples if anyone in the press would like to take a look at this. Hard to believe that there are, in these soapy materials, tiny, tiny particles of plastic that we use momentarily and then disperse into the environment with adverse consequences for our marine life. Unnecessary. And we're glad that these folks and others in the City Council and in Albany will be leading the way to get rid of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much, Eric, and you'll forgive me for not shaking your hand. I do want to just reiterate that one point, which is we understand the importance of the New York City market, and we understand the importance of New York City to lead on this issue. And we know that when we act, others will follow, not just in New York State, but beyond. And so the effort to ban the bead here will reverberate throughout this state, throughout this country, which is why we need to act now. We need to act fast. And one of the reasons why I'm so pleased to be joined by one of our colleagues in the City Council representing a district in the Bronx, and I'm pleased to call him to the microphone, Fernando Cabrera, council member.
Thank you so much. Truly, it's an honor to start standing here, and I want to commend our Attorney General for being such a catalyst in this important issue. And my colleague, Dan Garodnick, in the City Council, which is providing that leadership in the city council. What we do in the city is certainly viewed and considered by other municipalities and throughout the United States. So we want to be the role model. And simply, this is about having legislation catching up with science. The science is definitely telling us that there is a problem, and now is the time and now is the moment to make sure that we could save waterways and making sure that we're environmentally conscious about what's taking place around us. And as I was standing here and listening to what you had to share, I was thinking about my children, my grandchildren. We want to leave a better future for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Cabrera. Now we're going to hear from Sandra Miola of New York, New Jersey Baykeeper. Sandra, we're glad you're here. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you. Thank you. I am Sandra Miola. I work for the New York, New Jersey Baykeeper, which is an environmental nonprofit focusing on water quality within the New York, New Jersey region. And these little beads in these products cause huge problems, and they need to stop. So I thank the Councilman and Attorney General for your leadership on this issue. Recently, within the past few months, Baykeeper has led a research initiative trying to quantify the amount of plastic microbeads and other plastics within the harbor, and we're in the hundreds. So it really just shows that these tiny beads really do matter, and it's great that the city is taking a step forward and being a leader on this issue. And going forward, it's not so much banning the products, but it's also reaching out to the public and telling them what to look for in these ingredients. For example, in Crest 3D White, polypropylene is listed. And in several other of these products, it could also be polyethylene. So polypropylene and polyethylene are the ingredients to look out for. And like my colleagues stated, there are dozens of natural products we can use: salt, sugar, apricot seeds, ground walnuts. The list goes on. So it's important for us to be moving forward towards these natural products and encouraging the the personal care product industry to not only ban these types of plastics, but all plastics, including so-called biodegradable plastics. There's no such thing as biodegradable plastics. So I look forward to this ban, and let's ban the bead. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're now going to hear from a group of students from the New York Harbor School who have a special presentation for us, and we're going to finish it up today with Marcia Bistrin, who just joined us from the League of Conservation Voters, who had a breakfast way downtown that I saw them at earlier this morning for members of the City Council, and so we're going to turn now to the Harbor School. So welcome, guys.
Thank you for that introduction. Hello, I'm Luca Goldmansour, a student in the Marine Biology Research Program at the New York Harbor School on Governor's Island. I would like to thank you all for having me here to share some knowledge on microbeads and microplastics, as well as present one possible solution to some of the issues discussed today. As more and more sewage is being dumped into the world's oceans every year, microbeads, small bits of plastic found in hundreds of skincare products, as well as microplastics in general, are becoming an increasingly large threat to the marine environment. These microplastics, which are proven to absorb dangerous toxins, look very similar to typical fish food and are often eaten up by sea critters. This results in the bioaccumulation of these substances and introduces them not only to the food web of marine organisms, but humans as well. A hindrance and eventual reversal of this bioaccumulation is now vital to the health of the global environment. One solution I am working on to decrease the influx of microplastics into the marine environment is Ecovative Design's mushroom material, which is an ecologically friendly, biodegradable substance meant as a substitute for styrofoam. Styrofoam is one of the largest contributors of microplastics to the world's oceans. I've spent 2 years researching the effects on water quality and the durability of this mushroom material, and so far, results suggest that it is a viable alternative. The applications of this product are endless, but specifically for me, I am working on how we can use it to replace styrofoam fishing buoys. Looking to the future, It would benefit the environment greatly if the mushroom material was adopted throughout a multitude of industries. Thank you again for your attention.
Thank you, Luca. And lastly, as I noted, we're going to hear from Marcia Bistron of the New York League of Conservation Voters, and then we'll be happy to take your questions. Marcia?
Well, I imagine by now the challenges of microbeads have been outlined to you. You know, there are many challenges the environmental community faces, and the solutions to many of those are complex. But in this case, it's pretty simple. We simply need to ban them. And I'd like to thank certainly the Attorney General for his longstanding effort at the state level to move on this, and Councilmember Garodnick for his efforts at the city level. This is something we can do. It's practicable and practical. And let's just make sure it gets done this year. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we thank you all for your presentations today, and we're happy to take any questions from press on the subject of microbeads and the bill. Okay, go ahead.
So you said it enters the food chain. Can it be ingested directly through toothpaste, or
Yeah,
can
sure.
only ingest it through the food chain?
Sure. I mean, well, if you put something in your mouth and it is plastic and you swallow it, it is the most direct way of ingesting a microbead. In fact, it's present in these products. So if you don't appreciate the fact that toothpaste with microbeads means that you are brushing your teeth with plastic, among other things, then you might want to reconsider the use of that product. But this is not even about just the public awareness of the fact that people are using plastics in their daily products and may not appreciate it. It's about the vast environmental harm that is having on our waterways, to our marine life, and, as you noted, to the food chain. So you can get it in a variety of different ways. We want to make sure people are aware of that and that we take steps here to address it. Mr.
Yes.
Attorney General?
Yes, in fact, the public health community has started to weigh in on this, and there are issues related to microbeads. Not only do you ingest them if you use them in toothpaste, but they can also lodge in your mouth, and this is an issue that has come up in the dental community. So there's nothing good about these little beads, ladies and gentlemen. They cause problems at every possible level, and as has been noted repeatedly, this is one major environmental problem we can easily solve, and we take a big step towards doing so today.
Okay. Go ahead.
What are the natural substitutes for that meat? I don't understand really that product. Could you explain that again? And also, what are the other natural substitutes for that meat?
The natural substitutes to microbeads. Well, some of them were mentioned. You could use oatmeal, sea salt, ground almonds, pineapple, apricot. I mean, there's a sand. For most of the history of time, microbeads did not exist. They're a relatively new creation, and they're doing an extraordinary amount of harm. We will live without these things. We will do a lot better without these things. Do you want to answer your question about this?
Okay, so this product is made out of mycelium and corn husk. Mycelium is sort of fungal roots, the roots to mushrooms, and it kind of ties the corn husk together. This isn't necessarily a substitute for microbeads as much as a substitute for styrofoam in general, because styrofoam is a large contributor to microplastics in the ocean. Thank you.
I don't think you're going to see this particular product in your toothpaste, for example. Okay, any other questions? Go ahead.
This may seem obvious, but can you physically see it in the soap? I mean, if you were to
Yes, here. We'll hand you afterwards. You can see. I mean, if you just look at it, you can see that there are little plastic beads that are floating in the body wash in this situation. And once you're aware of it, it's very troubling to know that that's small beads of plastic. And I think that most New Yorkers are not aware of what exactly is contained in these products. But you can surely see them, particularly in something like this. And they're pretty obvious once you appreciate what you're looking for. Okay.
Anything else?
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you, everybody. Thanks very much.
Well done, sir. Well done, Dr. Summer.